Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylee and I am a Florida wedding and portrait photographer, and today we're going to edit some film scans. This video is going to be a follow-up to my last video that I uploaded, which was about shooting some flat lays on film. And today we're going to edit those scans from that video. So it's a bittersweet video today because some of my scans came back compromised, and I didn't realize this until I noticed something at the end of the final cut of my video that I didn't notice there before. And unfortunately, there was some paper, some little debris lying right on my sensor in my medium format camera, and it compromised a whole roll. As unfortunate as it is, I'm glad that I get to show you this today because it'll give you some ideas and some encouragement on how to overcome bumps and bruises and trials in your film shooting journey. So let's go ahead and hop into it. A quick explanation for this. See how unfortunate this is here? But it's okay. The quick explanation for this is that in the bustle of the session that I was shooting this roll of film at, I tore off the sealant of the 120 roll, and some of that paper just was left on that roll, and it happened to get hung in the camera on top of the sensor when it automatically wound the roll up into the camera. There was no way for me to know. I didn't see it in my viewfinder, and it wasn't actually until I watched the final cut of the last video. You can actually see it too. I didn't notice till the final cut of my last video that there was something in my sensor, and so it was kind of torture waiting for a week and a half for my scans to come back, and I had almost talked myself into the fact that the scans might be okay, but when I got them, lo and behold, there was something in my sensor that blocked the full frame of view, and so I kind of have to work around this and make them usable. So let's go ahead and do this. You can see a lot of different things on these rolls of film. This is actually a compilation of rolls of 120 and 35 millimeter. So all of the images that you see that are compromised were just from one roll of 120, and then the majority of the rest of these images are 35 millimeter and then another roll of 120. So not all of them are compromised, just a few. But let's get started. So I'm going to show you the ones that I have rejected first. So obviously this was just an accident. This is on my farm. Hi, nice little dry patty of cow poo. You know, that's where the last photo shoot was, and it was an accident. So that's one frame gone. My focus was off here. I was trying to do some fun things with focus, but the only way that I can fix these scans is to crop. And if I were to crop this down, I think that personally, since the focus is so off, the scan is unusable. So I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to discard. Same thing here. My focus was off. I was trying to do something a little different with focus and focus around this point of view here, and if I were to crop it, it's unusable. Exact same thing with focus. If I crop down, the focus is off and missed, and it doesn't look good. Same thing here. Same thing here. So this is the session that I shot the film at, and if I would have positioned myself and composed a little bit differently, maybe this picture would be able to be salvaged. But again, cropping is one of my only ways that I can save this, and there isn't really a way to, to save this. I'm just gonna leave it. Even this doesn't look quite right to me, so I'm just gonna leave it and move on. Same thing here, focus is off, and if I were to crop, it'd look bad, and same story, yada, yada, yada. So those are images that are unusable, and I can't do anything with them. But let's pop over here, and let me show you what I'm going to do to these in order to make them usable. So this works if I crop it down. Okay, and I actually kind of like the way that looks. It's kind of a fun composition, and I like it. I'm noticing here down in the right that there's a little strip here, and I'm not sure actually if that's like a scanning error, if that's me in my composition. So I'm just gonna crop just the smallest bit and cut that out, and that looks fine to me. Okay, same thing here. I'm just gonna go ahead and crop, and I think that I'm gonna I'm going to go ahead and crop out the bottom of my little marble mat here, and then make sure that my words are kind of the focal point of the image. So yeah, I think that looks all right to me. Still, this is my least favorite of ones that are usable, but it's what works. I kind of don't like that, you know, there's like a hunk of glasses here. It's not really a good composition with the glasses, but you know, it's still usable, and I don't want to waste it. So let's move on to the next one. Ooh, I love this image because you can actually see my my settings that I shot it at. So you can see actually that my film, my 120 was rated at 400. I was shooting at 1/60th of a second on the tripod, and then 2.8 was my aperture. So I think that's really fun. I did that on purpose so that I could look back at it later and say, hey, you can see my settings. Okay, and that's good to me. I'm going to go ahead and crop that down. These couple of images. This is so simple and so easy. I'm not going to do a lot to it. I'm just going to make sure that you can't see this giant obstruction here, unfortunately. So got that. See how that looks. Yep, that's just fine for me. I'm going to crop this down, and then let's see how that looks if I leave the bottom down here. Oh, I don't know why I don't like when the bottom hangs out like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and chop some of that out. And that actually looks okay because you can probably tell if you're a photographer and you come to my website, you can tell this is a light meter. So good to go. And then lastly is this guy right here. And I want to get my glasses in the magnolia cover, but I don't think that's going to work today. I think I'm just going to bring it back down. And I always have these for later, so if I want to crop them super differently at another time, I can come back and do that. Crop out that marble side over there. And yeah, that looks good to me. Okay, so now we're going to move on, and we're going to go to scans that were uncompromised. And we're just going to go ahead and edit everything that we've got so far just from the flat lay session. And if I feel like we have a little bit of time left, and I'll go back and edit some of these from this maternity session. But for now, let's go ahead and hit back to our flat lay at the beginning, and let's go ahead and edit these. So if you watched my videos before, you know that I just use really simple presets from Jordan Brittley. I just use her Brittley presets. I've subscribed to her her presets a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago now. And you know, I enjoy them. They're enough for me. They're basic and simple, and I like simplistic editing anyway. So even though this looks great by itself, it's a film scan, I'm just gonna slap that basic on there, light and airy basic, and then maybe take down my exposure just a smidge. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that at 30. And then we're just going to move on. So this is going to be a simple and easy editing tutorial. It really highlights the simplicity and the ease and the efficiency of film photography. So I'm really excited to just kind of walk through this with you. And so thanks again for showing up as I continue editing these scans. I'm glad that you're here. So that manipulates that blue just a tad bit. So I think all I'm going to do is bring up my lights. So my lights are coming up, and then my exposure is going to pop up just a little, just by 10, because I noticed that if I brighten it too much, then this beautiful teal color kind of loses its integrity, and I definitely love colors in my images. I want to keep that color integrity. So I think maybe just a little bit of contrast. Portrait 400 is already very contrasty, and so I'm not going to push that too much, but I just push that up to 15 over there in the corner. Let's move on. Light and airy basic, it looks good. I'm going to bring down my highlights just a little bit because I feel like those film rolls are getting just a little blown out. So if you go back and watch this video, you can see there were a lot of different lighting situations, and I was glad that I got to show those to you because it showed me in real time adjusting my settings and working with what I've been given. So if you want to see these images being shot, then go back and watch that other video. The link is going to be down below. But I'm glad that these scans turned out the way they did because they're just a really great example of the flexibility of film and the efficiency of film. So, okay, I'm just going to leave that as is. Next is, ooh, this one now. I remember cropping this one. Let's go slap a basic on it. This basic preset has been my favorite preset since it came out. It wasn't the original Jordan Brittley preset that she released, but it was one of the newer ones, and I think that this one has been mine and a lot of other clients' favorites or customers' favorites who have bought these presets. So this is probably my favorite to date. I can actually probably slap this on a lot of my scans and a lot of my edits and just leave it at that. It's a really great preset. I'm glad I have it. Well, looks good to me. I'm going to push my exposure just a smidge, 90. Okay, good. Now, as I'm editing these, I'm thinking about how I'm going to use these. I think it's really important to think about how you're going to use these scans beforehand, so that you can keep that in your mind as you're editing, and you can keep that in consideration. I know personally that I'm going to use these for a little bit of branding. I'm going to use them particularly on my Instagram, maybe do a few on a couple of trademark images on my website, and then for sure I'm actually going to update my Honeybook banners with a lot of this. So do the basic. Where's the pro and the base? Let's do the basic, except I'm going to bring this down a little. When I'm shooting portrait, like I said before, portrait is really contrasty, and so I try to attune my eyes to watch for blown out whites and just a lot of like almost inconsistent contrast and inconsistent coloring. So I try to be really careful of that and bring down my exposure when needed, watch my contrast and my whites for sure. Let's go ahead and move on over. It's the basic, and again I'm going to bring this down because I feel like that color changed a little bit. Good, that's a 20. My contrast has moved up already. Yep, I'm just going to leave it just like that actually. Light and airy basic. I'm not going to do anything else. Actually, I noticed that my crop is a little bit weird here, my composure. I addressed that in that previous video as well, so I'm going to crop out just that little bit of table there, and that looks good to me. Okay, here we have this. My main issue that I see here is that my crop was a little off, so I'm going to recompose a little bit and bring that in. And that's it. And let's slap the basic on there and good to go. Let's fix this crop. Done. Okay, so now that I've switched over, the camera subject is switched over to my Pentax. These have been shot with a 35mm. This was shot with my Elan 2, I believe, with a 50mm 1.2. So this image is the first of the next string of images which were shot with 35mm. So let's, yeah, I like basic, and I'm just going to bring down my exposure just a notch. So it's a common characteristic of this preset to really brighten things up, but I think that the effect that this preset has on film scans is varying and different, and sometimes it's perfect on film scans, and then other times like this when there's a lot of white and there's a lot of ambient white light bouncing around, it can kind of blow out those whites just a tad bit. So I'm actually going to take some of my blacks down because I'm seeing like right around here a little bit of grain, and I know that I can actually take my blacks down and kind of save that a little bit. So I'm going to bring my blacks down and make it a bit richer. Right about there. Yeah, that looks much better. Let's see before and after. Yeah, see how it almost gives you the illusion that it's underexposed, but I know it's not. This is definitely not underexposed. This is overexposed, and it just happens that when you're pushing blacks up in real life as well as in digital images, your blacks start to lose its integrity a little bit. So I just wanted to deepen those blacks and make that just a little bit more clean. Okay, and here's my basic. But like I said, again, I don't want for this to be too lifted. I don't want my blacks to be too lifted, so I'm just going to bring them down. Okay, that looks fine to me. If you're with me, say hey-o in the comments below. Let's see. That's my teacher coming out in me after I'm teaching a lesson for a really long time. I have to make sure that my students are still with me. So, but yeah, that shows that this is just easy and simple, and it may feel a little bit monotonous, but it's just what happens when you shoot film. The efficiency rises, and you don't have to really do all that much to edit and change your images. So this looks good to me. I'm going to bring my highlights down just a smidge. Just fine. I'm going to fix my crop That looks good. Basic. And then bring my blacks down again. I'm just looking to avoid that grainy look in my blacks. Okay, that looks good to me. I'm going to do my basic first and then fix my crop. So, whoop. Okay, good. And then bring down my blacks again to make them rich. And these are the last two, L&A Pro. Deepen my blacks a little. Fix my crop. Let's bring this up just a little so that I'm not cutting off the whole camera. Good. And that looks good to me. Basic. I'm actually going to leave this like this. I'm only going to bring down my highlights just a little. I'm going to go to my tone curve and bring down those highlights just a little. Good. Do I want to actually... I want to really quickly, my Romans 116 little thing here that I have attached to my memory card holder is upside down. That kind of bothers me a little bit. I knew that it would when I shot this image, but I just want to see what happens when I flip this around, if it serves the photo any better. No, it doesn't. I'm just going to go back and keep my memory cards right side up. And I'm mainly doing this because you can tell that the memory cards aren't right side up, and there's just a greater volume of those memory cards and of that discrepancy. If I flip the photo over, it may not bother some people, but it kind of bothers me a little bit. Your eye is drawn to how many of the memory cards are flipped upside down, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Next are my scans. Oop, these will be easy. Just slap the basic on, and I'm good to go. Slap basic on, and I'm good. All right, so cool. So these are all pretty much finished. I don't have a timer to see how long I have just yet. So I'm actually going to pop back and just slap that preset on a couple of photos from a wedding that I did, and then a couple from the maternity session. So let's go to the chandelier. I love this chandelier. This is probably one of my favorite images that I've ever put that L&A basic preset on, because it just enhances the image so much. I look at this image and I knew that when I shot it, I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. I love that chandelier. But watch when I slap the basic on there. Oh, that just like enhances this thing so much. I am slightly obsessed. I'm going to bring up my exposure a little just to give it a little bit of pop. And I think that's good. Looks all right to me. Okay, let's pop over to this maternity session really quickly. Which one do I want to do? I want to do this one. Okay. Wait, maybe not that one. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to do. Nope, this one. Okay. Changing my mind all over the place. I want to do this one. Okay, so I want to, as sad as it is, as fortunate as it is, I want to crop out this little black line over here. And I think that looks good. Now I'm going to put my L&A basic. Oh, it's just so pretty. L&A basic. And I'm just going to push my exposure just a little more. I'm probably going to leave it at 90. And I shot portrait for some of the contrast and the color pop, but I'm going to bring up my shadows just a smidge here, because there's a lot of darkness in the trees back here, and it kind of gets dark around here, and I just want to counter that brightness just a little bit. Okay, that looks good. And now I have to actually go through and erase all of these little cute little cow patties, because, you know, when you live on a farm, nature takes its course, and, you know, cows do their thing. But we don't want them in all our beautiful images, so we're going to crop them out. Not crop them out. We're going to heal them out. Heal or clone. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then this last one here is up close up against her dress, so I got to be real careful. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Got to be real careful. This may take me a second. And then done. Run and done. Cool. Oh, that looks so beautiful. So yeah, here's my before and my after. And honestly, even now, this takes me longer than the reality of editing this scan. This takes me all of 2 to 3 seconds. So let's pick another one now that I have a little bit of time left. Let's do this one. I love this one. I got to do a little bit of color change on this. All right, so let's pop on that Light and Airy Basic. And I'm actually going to warm this up like a bunch. Okay, warmed it up. And then it looks still just a little bit off, and so if you're never sure which side of the tint scale you need to go on, you can just always play with it some. There's the magenta, and there's a little bit of green. So I'm going to go back to 0, and I feel like it needs just a little more warmth. And then a tad bit of that magenta, but not a lot. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. Let's bring down my blacks this time, just to add a little bit of contrast, because if I do contrast, it's going to get a little bit too bright and contrasty, like in the truer sense of the word. But I just want to bring down my blacks a little, because that's always going to help fix, like fine-tune blacks. So that looks good. Maybe my shadows just a little, and that looks good to me. Before and after. Cool. If you are interested in seeing me edit the rest of this maternity session, and then I guess some of the wedding, let me know. I'll be glad to make another video, but for time's sake today, I'm just going to edit those 2 particular ones, and then edit maybe one of these cute little flowers, because you know me, I can't go 1 roll of film without shooting some flowers. I love flowers, guys. Do you love flowers? I love flowers, but I'm just going to go with it and just be confident in myself because I love flowers. And hope that you love flowers too. Light and Airy Basic. I'm going to bring up my exposure a lot more here just to... Okay, Cool Beans. Let's check my coloring. Whoop, nope. Thank you, Portrait, for always being so true to color. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that. And then lastly, this guy here, Light and Airy Basic. Let's bring up my exposure to 80. And I might warm this up just a little. Yep, okay, that looks good to me. There's my before and my after. And my before and my after. Hot diggity beans, this is done. Okay, so I think that's going to be all for today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up so that I don't go too long on my video. But just a simple question, if you're a viewer and you shoot film too, let's just get some interaction started in the comment bar below. I have videos of me editing Portrait and me editing Fujifilm. What is your favorite film to shoot? Do you like Portrait? Do you like Fuji? Do you like Ektar? And then what is your favorite format to shoot? Do you love medium format or 35mm? You can answer any one of those questions as you please. I would love to just interact with you. You can find me at kayleetrippett.com, or you can find me on Instagram very often at kayleetrippett. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm so glad that you came by. Just begin interacting with me in the comments below. Just tell me if you want to see me edit this maternity session, if you want to see more, if you want me to just see me finish up this entire, batch of editing, let me know and I will. But yeah, so I'm glad you showed up, and thank you, and stay tuned for my next video. Have a great day. Bye.